Let me assert my firm belief that the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
Hey everybody, Joe Trippi here, Democratic strategist and host of That Trippi Show and my new show, On the Ground with Joe Trippi. With me is the other Joe, celebrated journalist Joe Klein. Joe's been covering political campaigns for longer than I've been working in them. And as you know, we sometimes agree, we sometimes even hotly disagree. But Joe, where do you want to get started?
I want to get started with the President of the United States talking about the ceasefire with Iran this morning.
Well, that's
our quote of the week.
Okay.
I think it's over. I don't want to deal with them anymore. They're scum. You know what scum is? They're scum. They're sick people. They're led by sick people. And they're vicious, violent people. And if they had a nuclear weapon, they'd use it. As far as I'm concerned, it's over.
The art of the deal.
Yeah. Well, oil prices are headed back up. And
Well, you know, this was a remarkably stupid thing on his part. By the way, let's talk about Trump kind of cosmically at this point. I think he's fallen apart. And I think that his movement is falling apart. And I think that, and it's falling apart over foreign policy, and it's falling apart over the incredible grifting that he's done. $1.4 billion worth of profits last year.
Crypto,
yeah. And, you know,
everybody else lost their shirt on his crypto, but he made 1.4 billion.
Well, listen, you know, the big movie of the summer is going to be Christopher Nolan's version of the Odyssey, where in which the Greek gods toy with our hero Ulysses on his way home to Ithaca, and it takes him 20 years to get there, which some military veterans have told me was the first book ever written about post-traumatic stress disorder. But it got me thinking about how, if the Greek gods were alive today, they've been messing with Donald Trump's brain. I mean, they've been playing games with him. They gave him Venezuela in order to screw him with Iran. His reflecting pool turned green with algae. His July 4th celebration was canceled, or at least truncated, by thunder and lightning. Boy, that, you know, when Zeus gets angry, he really sends the rain and the thunder. And I think that would, in my mind, is a metaphor for the notion that if the magic ain't over, it's coming to a close. You know, I think that I think people still talk about him trying to fix the midterm elections, and he may. But I don't think he's going to succeed. I don't think a majority in the Senate will allow him to do crazy things like the voter limitation law that he wants to pass. I think that we should all be taking a very close look at J.D. Vance at this point, because I think sooner or later he's your next president.
I don't disagree with that. I do think Trump's unraveling and his coalition's unraveling. I mean, I don't even saw today that Fox News viewership is down 7% in the last month or something. And even in the demo, they're down even further. You know, look, they may.
But so who's up? Are any of those shows gaining viewers? I don't think so.
Yeah, no, MS gained.
MS gained.
Yeah, it's really weird. You know, I keep talking about the turnout in Alabama's primary, and that's not to keep reminding people that Doug Jones is a great candidate for governor there and needs your help. That's not why I keep mentioning it, but
this was an unpaid political announcement.
Yeah, no, but it's because we had 116% higher turnout in Alabama on the Democratic primary versus 2022. They had a 25% decline in turnout on the Republican side, despite spending $30 million in a Senate primary where Trump was, everybody's who's going to be Trump's choice, all that stuff. They had a 25% decline. And then when you look at what's happening with Fox viewership declining, and again, MSNBC's viewership increasing, that turnout differential, and what you're saying about, which I agree with you, that his coalition's unraveling, and he's unraveling before our eyes. I mean, in other words, I think those other two, Fox and the turnout differentials that we're seeing and Democratic overperformance, are all sort of, proof points to to what you're saying, that things are falling apart on him.
There's one other thing, and this is of crucial importance to me because I am just totally immersed in the World Cup. But I think he jinxed the American team by intervening and trying to get and succeeding in getting the red card and suspension lifted off of America's best offensive player, who, by the way, is an anchor baby. He was born in Brooklyn, but raised in London. And, this is classic Trump, because those poor kids, they worked so hard. And if they had won, it would have been tainted. It would have been tainted by Trump. The whole conversation, and worse, Trump would have taken credit for the victory that they won on the field. And he manages to try to insert himself into every last thing. And, when you talk about people who are mentally ill, this is an obvious sign of that.
Well,
look, are you as much into the World Cup as I am? I'm crazed.
Yeah, no, I've been watching it, and I watched that game. But I would say that Rick Wilson, my one of the guys with me in the Lincoln Project, coined the phrase "everything Trump touches dies."
Right.
And I think it's a metaphor for the game's a metaphor, and what happened there is exactly that. It's not so much that I really think what that was about was it totally changed the dynamic. I mean, it was a team that were sort of the underdogs, beating the odds, exciting everybody with their play, and then suddenly they weren't the underdogs anymore. That's what I mean. It totally changed the vibe,
right.
For lack of a better way of putting it. It killed the vibe. He killed the vibe. He didn't kill the team, but he killed the vibe. And I think that really, it's hard to even imagine because they just seem so flat in that game posted. But anyway, like you, Joe, I've been learning, what's onside, offside, all that stuff that I'm still trying to figure out a lot of it, but I have enjoyed the games. And it's a shame that the U.S. won't be in the quarters or the final. But again, Trump immediately, braggadocious about how he changed the, got everything changed. His appeal, and then today, silence, complete silence.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's posted anything about the American team since they lost that game. I may have missed it.
Well, in his mind, they've now gone away the way he thought he had made Iran go away. But Iran ain't going away. And I think before long, you're going to see a joint deal between Oman and Iran to charge tolls in the Strait of Hormuz. And this is one of the most embarrassing defeats that an American president has ever suffered. Maybe the most embarrassing defeat, because this was an entirely unnecessary war. and he had absolutely no idea who he was going to war with. I have it on very good authority, excellent authority, that the word Strait of Hormuz never came up in the prep sessions in the Situation Room. I mean, how could that possibly be? It could possibly be because that's the way Trump rolls. If I've been reading,
Hegseth wouldn't have thought of it. I mean, it's also who he put in. I mean, it's the whole thing, and who he purged.
It's the way he does everything. I've been reading the Maggie Haberman, Jonathan Swan book, Regime Change, which is, I suppose, the hot book of the summer. And that's the way he does everything. Yeah. That's the way he came to pardoning the January 6th felons. That's how he kept on changing tariff levels from day to day. It's just he wakes up and the world is born anew, and he feels he has a clean slate to do anything he wants. And I think the rest of us are learning that, well, many of us knew, but the country may be learning that he's flying by the seat of his pants.
Well, also lately, politically, what he's been doing, because he racked up all those primary losses where he was supporting people who got defeated in the Republican primary, he started to wait to the last minute and then do a poll to see who was going to win, and then come out for that, which is kind of, you're seeing that, I think, with Ukraine, where he suddenly it's like I think, whatever is going on, it's clear he's seen something new, because he's going to jump in front of that parade really quick. And I think it looks like he's shifting there. And pretty soon he'll have been with Ukraine and Zelensky from the get-go. I mean, it's just watching this all do. And that, again, is another, I think, sign of just how he's unraveling, because it's clearly, he was so wrong for so long in Russia's invasion, Putin's vicious invasion on Ukraine, and now he's suddenly he was one of those, I'm sure, thought it'd be over in 4 days. Now he's suddenly, geez, they're so innovative, et cetera, et cetera. I think Putin's got a problem. I mean, it's all BS, all of it. It's not grounded in anything other than, okay, yeah, I was wrong. I got change in front of your eyes, and
you won't remember where I was a day ago, because don't have, the American people don't have an institutional memory.
Yeah, exactly.
They only have a memory for entertainment and style, and he'll provide that on a daily basis, and most of it will be bullshit for sure. But some of it is extremely dangerous bullshit.
He's been given speech after speech about, we have to stop the communists from destroying our country, but at the same time spent the entire last since he was in, helping Putin in Ukraine, helping Russia. It's like, but now he sees, like, he doesn't want to lose both. He's already got destroyed in the Iran war. He's about to lose two. So how do you stop yourself from losing two? Just same way he did with the primaries that he was losing. You just flip. He's going to flip. You're going to flip over and go, oh yeah, Russia won. Ukraine won because of me. And then in his today in his presser, he inadvertently asked if you have any questions of Putin as he was sitting there with Zelensky. Caught himself and said, like, oh no, you should ask questions of Putin. I was just saying you should ask questions. I wasn't saying you should ask Zelensky. I wasn't confused. He was clearly confused. He clearly had. It's just amazing.
Let me ask you something. I was just thinking about how he looks, and he doesn't look good. When he walks up the stairs on his new plane, Grift Force One, he he really kind of looks Biden-esque. But the question I have for you, Joe, is does all of this grifting, the plane that he was given by Qatar, the 1.4 billion in profits that he made on the strength of 3.8 billion in losses from his supporters, is that beginning to cut through? I mean, so far people have said, well, all politicians are corrupt, so he's just doing what everybody does. Do you think that there is a statute of limitations on that?
No, look, I think the grift is breaking through. You see it over and over again. It's kind of interesting because you see corruption, on what bothers you most. Obviously, affordability, et cetera, but corruption is right up there on top now, and that wasn't the case, 3, 4, 5 months ago. And I think it's really hurting the rest of the party as well. I mean, a lot of these people are people who just moved into their district or their state or have never lived there. A lot of them are insider stock deal. I mean, literally trading stocks on after they sit on a committee that has inside information on the company that they're investing in. And a lot of them have defended almost all of Trump's, worst grifting. So no, I think it's going to be a hotter and hotter issue, particularly again with this Iran debacle. We're now, I'm sure we'll likely see gas prices go back up over $4. And I think people are the one thing we talked about this on the ground stuff. I just went out in Iowa. I was talking to farmers up in near Mason City. They get it. I mean, they get it because they can't. I'm talking to the farmer was talking about how he and his wife were now canning and freezing everything they could that was growing on the farm so that they could make it through without having to go to the store to buy things anymore because they don't have the money to do it. How they're being wiped out by the tariffs and fertilizer costs, diesel costs, all that. And at the same time, he's making, they don't have the stat of the 1.4 billion that he made on crypto. Now, none of those farmers were investors in crypto, right? But like you point out, even the people who he sold those crypto coins to lost their rear ends. As soon as they bottomed, they went down. So I don't know. I mean, he may be destroying his coalition himself. I mean, by grifting off of his own people, I'm getting a sense that people are sick of it. In other words, how many more red hats can he sell them?
No, well, he's moved on to gold hats and black hats.
Yeah, right, yeah.
But to flip the coin a little bit, this has been another tremendous week for the Democratic Party as well. The game in Maine will never be the same, right? What do you make of the Platner situation and how he should be replaced? Because I've gone on the record about what I think, and I'll tell you in a minute.
Well, I mean, one, he should absolutely step down. I think every Democrat out there should call on him to step down. I think there are a lot of people that were, basically on every attack. There were a lot of podcasts stuff saying, he's great, et cetera. I never signed on for that. I thought there's something about the guy that always just made me not oppose him, but just, hey, I mean, because I always thought if people in Maine want to do whatever they're going to do, I'm not a Mainer. I love the state, but it's now clear. I mean, when you lose Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, Ro Khanna, regardless, forget about the horrible accusations, all that other stuff. But it's over. He can't possibly suffer.
Who's the best candidate to replace him?
Well, I'm a big fan of the idea that Heather Cox Richardson would be the right candidate to replace him, but she, I saw on Instagram that, I mean, that would be somebody I would have said, hey, everybody, let's, whatever the process is, whether it's a convention, a lighthouse primary, which a lot of people are calling for, that I would hope she would be a candidate. She's been at least, she's certainly not entering the race, and is for the most part said that she's not really interested in doing it. It's not her thing to run for office. So we'll see.
Well, I had my immediate thought, which I published yesterday, is that you have the exact opposite of Graham Platner in Maine. One of the most honorable and humble politicians I've ever met, Jared Golden, who is retiring from the House because of threats, death threats that he and his family have gotten, because he, after a mass shooting in Lewiston, Maine, he changed his position on assault weapons and came out against them. And I know that, I'm involved in the bipartisan military caucus. And I know that members of that caucus are talking to Jared and trying to get him to get back in, but he's a stubborn guy. And but I think that if you're looking for somebody who represents what the Democratic Party should be about, the integrity, the life of service, the sacrifices, there's a guy to go to. And also the courage. He has the courage to change positions when he thinks he's wrong, like assault rifles, or to take positions that where he disagrees with other Democrats. So, I mean, we'll see about that.
Yeah, well, you have Platner trying to negotiate his way out. When he gets out, some assurance that the party will nominate somebody out of the left of the party, et cetera. The Maine party executive director made it very clear in a statement. I think that she put out yesterday, video statement saying, like, that's not going to happen. He's not going to we're not negotiating with you. You need to get out, and we're going to have a process. What I don't know is what because the process will have a lot to do with with whoever gets picked. I mean, if it's state committee members, those people were picked in caucuses. I've been through every Maine caucus convention. I mean, famously, like all the way back, to the Walter Mondale. But if it's that group, they were all elected already. No candidate's going to be in. You're not going to be able to stack it. Is what I'm trying to say. You're not going to be able to suddenly elect a whole bunch of Bernie people to into that decision.
Well, the Bernie people are pretty strong up there.
But I mean, whatever it is, if that's the way they go. If it's
one of the things that this reveals is, and it's a problem with both parties, but it's a traditional problem with the Democrats, and that's the mythologizing of the working class. Now, I think that the Democrats are barking up a tree that died maybe 100 years ago. And the most recent statistics show that the middle class is shrinking, but that's mostly because people are moving into the upper middle class. Now, I think that
there's people sinking too, though. I mean, I'm not sure. It may be more.
Well, they're not. The latest figures on poverty in the United States are overwhelmingly, shockingly low. 4.5% are in poverty. And if you do three things, if you graduate from high school, work a job, any job, and wait until you get married before you have kids, your chances of winding up poor are 2.5%. And I think that the Democratic Party has to recognize, by the way, that research came out of the Brookings Institution, which was a liberal think tank.
Right.
The Democratic Party has to recognize that the middle class, you stop talking about the working class, you talk about the middle class and the upper middle class. And there's a level of unfairness and stupidity that the populists on both sides, left and right, are imposing on those folks. And I think that the path forward for the opposite, the antidote to right-wing populism isn't left-wing populism, it's moderation.
I'm not sure that that's, again, over the long horizon, maybe. But
charismatic moderates, I might.
No. But in this,
Where are they?
In this cycle, I just don't see that. I'm sorry, I just don't. I mean, you have a cycle where everybody, I don't care where they're, what they're, where they are on the tier of the economy. They think it's a pile of crap right now. Whether it is or isn't, that's not my point. Everybody to a T. Gas prices are too high. Farmers can't afford their fertilizer or their diesel fuel. People are like appalled at ICE and the murders in Minneapolis. That's not, and the
That's
mass
not a populist issue. That is a thug issue.
Right. My point is, right now they just want to stop the thug, and anything and any kind of moderate, cautious, no, they want somebody who's going to go punch the others, punch the establishment, whatever you want to call it. It's not ideological. That's where I disagree with you. I'm not disagreeing with where you think long haul, what Democrats need to think about. I just don't think you're going to see any of that in the 2026 election. It's going to be stopping Trump, standing up to, like Jared could do, he could do that in Maine. What I'm trying to say is it's not about where he is ideologically. It's what you talked about, his courage, his willingness to stand up, to basically, and just, to stand up to a Democratic Party interest group, if that's where he thinks. I think people they don't want somebody who's just going to go along, and they don't want somebody who if they think that you're going to support Schumer for Senate leader, you're done. You're just done, because it has nothing. You could be the most liberal. You could be Bernie. You could do whatever. But like if Bernie Sanders went out and said, "I'm going to support Schumer for leader of the Democrats in the Senate," Bernie Sanders would drop to like a rock with people who support him. So no, I think it's about change. I think it's a generational thing. There's certainly generational issues, Gaza, Israel, et cetera, where the younger Democrats have different positions than older Democrats have had on Israel, for sure. Some of it because no one's I think, but that issue, regardless of where you stand on it, is likely to get hotter. And I think people want change. They don't want, just unconditional for Israel. That's not going to work in 2026. I'm not, by the way, I'm a big.
They don't even want conditional. I'm conditional.
But that's my
Dan Goldberg, who lost in New York because he actually supports that a state of Israel should exist, and oppose the war in Gaza. He lost.
What I'm trying to say is I don't think this is ideological. It's change. It's sick of the same old. And
I think that a lot of this anti-Israel stuff, by the way, one thing we should mention is a guy who is running an absolutely substantive and courageous campaign is Rahm Emanuel. who is in Israel right now and
Talking.
giving a speech saying that the Israelis have to recognize Palestinian sovereignty over the West Bank, which is a position that I've favored for a long time.
I favor that too. But
I don't think he has a chance of becoming the nominee, but I think that he is opening the debate in really interesting ways on education, on foreign policy, and on enterprise.
You can be for Israel's right to exist and oppose what Bibi's inflicted on Gaza. Both of those things can be true, and that's where I'm at. Some voters are going to be one side or the other because there'll be, politicians that will stoke that. But I don't really think any of that's what's going on. I think this is whatever's going on. It's not working. I want to change it, and that's going to not work well for the majority party because they have the House, the Senate, and the presidency, I do think that's why a Janet Mills, who's fine governor, is never going to be. I mean, they could put her in right now. I think it'll be a mistake. I mean, it'd be, it's not. That's not, and that's not a hit on her. That's what I'm saying. I just think thinking that being sort of locked into what the perfect candidate would have been 3 years ago or 2 years ago is not what people are looking for today. And I think we're seeing signs of it everywhere. And I think Platner was a sign of that. That's what I'm trying to say. I mean, and yes, young people upset about Gaza and just unconditional support of Israel, confusing that with yes, that's created a lot of anti-Semitic tropes out there. But I just don't think that in the end you're going to see Israel or any of that having much of an impact in the general election, other than Iran and, again, prices, et cetera, et cetera. And by the way, it's another one where Bibi got Trump to go hook, line, and sinker into the stupidity of a war in Iran. I mean, people, you can be against that. You can be against that. It doesn't mean you're anti-Semitic. The problem is that there are plenty of people at the extremes on both sides that will try to drive anti-Semitism, all of it, and to hurt Israel. That's going to happen. I mean, they're going to do that. I don't believe in the end, though, it'll decide an elect. I mean, may decide one here or one there. I'm not saying that.
It's going to have a big influence in the Democratic presidential primary in 2028.
But you just pointed out. So, yes, we'll see how Rahm does. But Rahm's going to take that position. I'm sure somebody else will be in there.
I don't look at Rahm as a plausible candidate. I hope I'm wrong about that because he would be a very strong candidate. I see him as a table setter, as a guy who helps to set the agenda. And he has laid down a marker today on Israel that's really important. I've been accused in the past by AIPAC, by the Anti-Defamation League of being too pro-Palestinian. But I have to say,
but saying you're for Palestinian sovereignty that's not being too Palestinian. There should be a two-state solution.
Of course it's not.
That's where we've always been.
Of course it's not. And I can give you the names of the Palestinian leaders who could make this happen. I've interviewed most of them. But the fact is that what's going on out there right now is something different. All of this anti-Israel stuff, all of this pro-Palestine, from the river to the sea, all of that stuff is, I think, just a bunch of Jew haters. And the Jews among them are the worst of the Jew haters. They're self-hating Jews. And I think that is, we got 2,000 years of history.
You have you've got a prime minister who believes bulldozing them into the Jordan is the
Absolutely.
solution. Okay. And then you have the river to the sea extreme on the other side. Take it all, push the Jews out. Okay. What I'm trying to say is those two extremes exist. They're because they both exist at the same time. That's creating people who are embracing one of those two extremes. Okay. So not my point. My point is it's not going to get, as you were about to say, people have been trying to solve this for a few thousand years, at least. That fight is going to be a big deal in the presidential primaries of 2028. As soon as this year's over, I don't think it's going to have any impact on the election here in terms of like as an issue. It may get brought up in a debate or something, but I don't think anybody's voting on that stuff. I mean, maybe some younger voters are.
I think in the primary there aren't going to be.
Oh, it's always the primary. That's my point. It's the primary where you have to got to worry about the left. They have to worry about the MAGA right. That's how it works. That's how. I'm sorry, but till we're not a democracy, that's how it works, Joe. And I'm telling you, I think that in most of these primaries, most of the ones we've seen, the Democrat who's won, whether it was a DSA person or a moderate center Democrat, for their district, they're pretty right. They're pretty a good fit in the district. You can go, oh my God, I can't believe I've got a DSA person over here. That's probably going to end up in the House. It's going to happen. But that if you really look at it, and the seats that are up that really matter, 9 times out of 10, maybe even 9.9 times out of 10, the person that's being nominated is fitting the makeup of that district, and I think he stands a good chance to defeat whoever the Republican is in a battleground place.
Historically, though,
change
Republicans have had better success in tarring all Democrats with the foibles of the left. I mean, how many Democrats actually were in favor of defunding the police? Not many. But Republicans are excellent at that, and Democrats aren't so good. So let's go back.
But that's why I don't think
where it starts, and that is that Trump gave right-wing extremism a coating of Teflon, and that Teflon is cracking and breaking now. And so the Democrats may have more success, targeting Republican extremism than they have had in recent years. But the way to do that is not to find phony working class candidates. It's to find charismatic candidates who have great character. You know how it works. It's always the reverse of who the last president.
Yeah, and
this president is a thief. I think that the next president is going to have to be someone
every time we get on, and every time I tell you, I understand. But whoever's going to win their primaries, and these parties right now are going to win their damn primaries. There's not a damn thing you or I can do about. We can get behind this guy or that one or that woman.
I don't think so. I've seen people like Joe Trippi come up with ads that change the primary overnight. Dick Gephardt in Iowa a long time ago.
We only have like a couple of primaries even left. It's July. We've got some August.
No, you're talking about this year. I'm talking about 2028.
Yeah, so 2028, it's all gonna get decided in the presidential primary. That's where it's all gonna get decided. It's not
that's what I'm saying, and that's where I'm afraid that the left will have too much influence, just as the right populist right has had too much influence in the Republican Party.
It doesn't work that way. Tell me who the field is. I'll tell you who's going to win. And so, yes, if AOC
can I ask you now?
No, yeah. Tell me who the field is. If it's AOC, hold on. If it's AOC, Mark Kelly, Rahm Emanuel, and Pritzker, my guess is AOC. No. Let's just keep it to those 4. My guess is AOC wins. Okay. If it's Kamala, AOC, Wes Moore, Cory Booker, Mark Kelly, Pritzker, but we can go every flavor of the universe. Yeah, which I think it's going to be. Yeah, somebody's going to be. We'll see. It'll be a dogfight. It may come down to a Mark Kelly versus AOC. In the final. In the final fight for the. I'm using two names that just sort of show the difference, not because I'm thinking either of those things. But my point is, yeah. And guess what? Bill Clinton either wins the 1992 Democratic nomination, or we probably go another 4 years in the wilderness if we had nominated, a more liberal, whatever you want to call it. So that fight's coming. And I think I agree with you about Rahm setting a table and putting some really tough positions out there for people to chew on. And I think what he articulated in Israel is one of the more courageous, smart things to have done. I think it may give some people cover too to take those kind of positions, but that fight is not one to be made. It sort of gets to my point. Coming on here and talking about, oh God, when they do defund the police, we're all going to get killed because the Republicans are going to use it. It may be true, but I don't think it's helpful.
I think I'm just saying that
what's helpful is what's going on with Platner, and that Platner is a great example of this, because what the Democratic Party has refused to do is it pretends that maybe they won't see that. Maybe they'll go past it because of Trump, whatever. From the get-go, had people come out immediately, and I'm talking about Elizabeth Warren. I'm talking about, stuff in the women, came out immediately and said, no, this is unacceptable. I can't support him. Instead of endorsing him because he's out there on their litmus test. And that's what Rahm's not doing. Rahm's out there saying, damn it, this is the position we should have. And he'll call. So what you got was
I'm not saying that it's going to continue to succeed on the Republican side, that kind of trashing, defund the police and that kind of. I'm not saying that it's going to continue to succeed. I'm saying that. What I'm saying is that it has been more successful than Democratic efforts to tar the Republicans in the past. And the Democrats should understand this time that the way to respond isn't through populist mudslinging, it's through character. That's what people are pining for out there. They're pining for someone who isn't a grifter.
And that is why Platner is probably going down, because he kind of took the veil off, and we found out he's just, he's not who he told us he was. He's not authentic. He's not real. He was making it because people thought he was authentic and real, even regardless of what his positions were. And they want change, and they want to stop Susan Collins, etc. But finally, enough people said, no mas, and I don't think he's going to get out of this. I think in the end,
you don't think he's going to leave the race?
Oh, he'll leave the race. Yeah, he's not going to. I mean, he can stay in. That's fine. If he wants to go down 80-20, that's his. If that's how he's going to do it, that's how he's going to do it. I don't think he will, but who knows? He's clearly got bad judgment. We'll see. Actually, I think every minute that it's taking him to decide to get out proves how bad a choice he would be as a senator. I mean, the lack of judgment to understand where things are, and still I'm not talking about yesterday at this time. I'm talking about we're at the end of the day today, and this guy still hasn't done it. Done what? I think every minute proves what a disaster he actually is.
There were Democrats who saw this from the very beginning. Jake Auchincloss, who was a guest on this program, refused to endorse him. And I know that Jake Auchincloss and Jared Golden are not only friends, but share the same values and the same kind of moral character. And the only message I'm trying to deliver is you can have all of the authenticity in the world. If you don't have courage and strong moral character and an overriding sense of service, then I don't want to have any part of you, and the Democratic Party shouldn't either.
And I'm saying that I think what happened here with Platner was people thought he had that courage and that character. They actually thought, because of how strong he was standing up against Trump and whatever was going on, and just realize, and the veils come off, and he doesn't have that character, so he's not going to be the nominee. He's proving every day how flawed his character is. Every minute he's proving your point about flawed character. And my point is, yeah, you're going to see. So
authenticity and character are two different things.
If he gets in the race, Jackson will be in the race too, and they're going to have a spirited, I guess, 2-week debate if he gets in. Mm-hmm. And we'll see what happens. I know who you'll be supporting. I might be supporting the same person. That's not my point. My point is it's going to get decided by voters out there, and voters out there don't have the same attitude you or I do, or we wouldn't be having this argument in the first place.
Well, anyway, I think that we've passed our sell-by date for this.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I definitely passed mine a long time ago. So thanks everybody for being with the two Joes. And if you get through our arguing and we come out the other side and you still want to tune in next week, please join us for another episode of the two Joes next.
Especially if you enjoy our arguing.
Yeah, well, I don't know who could possibly enjoy that, but if you do, we'll keep doing it.
Okay.
Let me assert my firm belief that the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.